All right, welcome
Yep.
to another episode of Closers or Losers. My name is Jeremy Miner, coming in from our Scottsdale, Arizona office, talking with our CEO, my business partner, Matt Ryder, all the way in Sydney, Australia. He's not in the office today. He's
No
too in
need.
the office. He's staying working from the home. He's that awesome. What's going on down under, dude?
Yeah, it's raining, getting cold.
So are you back
So
with Sacramento Kings basketball thing? What's
no,
it?
this is the Sydney Kings.
Oh, the Sydney Kings. Oh, yeah. I just watched them
Yeah,
on ESPN 8 the other day.
the Ocho.
No, yeah. ESPN. Ojo, I love that. Right, that's awesome, man. Dodge, dip, duck. What's that? Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
perfect. So today we got an interesting subject. So in case all of you don't know, the way we find our subjects is we just kind of go to the search engines and find out what all of you are searching about, what you're asking in Google and YouTube. And today, Matt, we've got an interesting conversation. So many people are asking, what is it?
Yeah, the brutal truth, and I say I think like the ramifications or consequences of being a salesy seller.
The ramifications of being a salesy seller. I wonder who's
Being
been asking.
salesy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about it. So, you were a client a long time ago, back when I started 7 Level 4 years
Was
ago with myself and Beth, my assistant for my previous job. There's two of us. You were a client. And I wouldn't even say that you were salesy then. I mean, you were making 20 grand a month, but what in your mind were you doing that was salesy back in the day?
I think it was assumptive, pushy. I think you'd say pretty classic, not salesy in the terms of like sleazy and what's
Yeah.
it going to take to get you in this car today type stuff. But I think it was just very, bruiser mentality. I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, and I
Did
think
you
it served
did
okay
you
for a while.
feel salesy using those techniques, or did you just not think about it?
I don't think I thought about it. I think I felt the consequence of being salesy,
Yeah.
which was sort of like, like a lot of headaches, like physically a lot of headaches. I think you're taking up a tremendous amount of mental bandwidth
Okay.
when you're kind of arguing with people because it ends up being less of a conversation and more of an argument.
So it's
Um,
like if you're married and you and your spouse fight day in and day out, you eventually, well, you kind of get beat up mentally, right?
Exactly. It doesn't become a pleasant conversation. You don't look forward to the sale. One of the things that I tell people all the time is sales is such an interesting job to have because
Yeah.
you get to speak to strangers on a regular basis. Joe Rogan always says he loves his job because he gets to just talk to people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And like, if you have a think and, everyone here is obviously in sales, but if you speak to people,
Yeah.
they might not even have an hour-long conversation with their spouse,
True.
you know, because an hour is a long time, to sit down and take that time and actually have that conversation, ask questions about people, and just sort of try and find out what's really going on. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
So I think, to not enjoy that side of it is unfortunate because I think it's probably the greatest benefit of being in sales is being
Well,
able to
it,
do that.
it's one of the biggest reasons why there's, sales. I believe, I've read this somewhere. Don't quote me. I could be wrong, but I believe sales has the highest attrition of really any professional on the planet. Now, I could be wrong. It could be like, hey,
I think
professional
if you took out
snake
professional sport, yeah,
professional snake wrestlers have the highest attrition, or because they get, I could be wrong, but real
it's a
professions is
very
one of
high,
the
yeah,
highest turnover rates, right?
yeah,
We see it
exactly.
all the time when we go into companies, and we're talking, sometimes Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 1000 companies, and they'll lose 30% of their sales force like every 3 to 6 months. That is crazy. And
But if they're being taught how to sell in a way that's kind of old school and people don't like rejection, if you're getting rejected all the time, it's hard to stay in the game.
most people can't handle that. If they're
Yeah.
triggering sales resistance, they don't know why, right? They can't handle getting emotionally beat up all day. So we want to learn techniques that cause our prospects to let their guard down, where we don't trigger that, where we
Yeah.
don't go through all that. Why do you think salespeople, in your mind, why do you feel salespeople are so salesy? What's the cause of it? You
I
ever
think
thought?
there's a couple reasons. I think there's a big shift at the moment, away from sales and towards mindset.
Yeah.
And
Why?
so, I have no idea. I just think you got a bunch of people saying that, if you can dream it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And I'm all for people achieving their dreams, but
Yeah.
tactically, you have to have a plan. Like, a good mindset's not gonna win you like a gunfight.
That's funny.
Like it's just not.
You have to know how to shoot and like
You got to have a tactic. You got to have training. You got to know what you're doing. Like, the Mujahideen, is not the Taliban by any stretch of the imagination. They're fairly highly, they have a lot of, they're a very motivated group of individuals that are protecting their land and, whatever. And they're much harder to fight than the Taliban are. Because they have genuine tactics.
Yeah.
That's the real
So
difference.
when you're serving in, where you were serving in the Middle East back when you're in the military.
Yeah.
Had you had the greatest mindset in the world, but really hardly any tactics, you probably would end up dead.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which is why, like, the Taliban are an incredibly motivated group of individuals because they believe wholeheartedly in what they're doing.
Yeah.
But they don't stand a chance against a well-trained group of soldiers.
Yeah.
It's just, they don't stand a chance. It's just a fact.
Yeah. Tactical skills always outdoes mindset because, the thing with sales, I think a lot of people don't think, and I think here's a reason, in my opinion, why there's so many sales trainers that mainly train motivational stuff is because the way they train triggers so much sales resistance. It comes across so pushy and slimy and salesy that it causes so much of their salespeople that are going through their training to get so much rejection that they then have to get them pumped up with having it's a numbers game. You can get your dreams, like just, more yes, you're going to get 100 no's to get that one yes. Like that's the only thing they can do to make their clients think that it's just a numbers game and they have to stay motivated and driven.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, it probably is like it's a cause and effect, right? They're being taught how to sell in a crappy way, which means they have to believe that the mindset is the key because it's the only thing that'll stop them from quitting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in our minds, I love motivational stuff. Don't get me wrong. I love Tony Robbins. And I think motivation stuff is really good to overcome personal tragedies and stuff and to build a business, I think you have to be motivated. But as a CEO, let's say Jamie Dimon, who's just read an article from him in the Wall Street Journal, who's the CEO of, Morgan, JP Morgan.
Yeah.
He could be motivated all day, but would he really be the CEO of a bank like that if he didn't have tactical skills?
Genuinely, what you see from CEOs, like successful ones, is very, very neutral, very level.
Yeah,
like not very up and down. Yeah, not very up and down. You have a person who's very kind of up and down. They're not going to be, because they have to be able to make unemotional decisions. Quite difficult, like that's sort of the job. And so you have to be quite even keel. So if you're out there jumping around, telling everyone to scream and do push-ups, it's not the greatest thing on the planet.
It's not going to help you sell more, right? It's going to help you get in shape, but that doesn't mean you're going to sell more. Look, like I'll tell everybody this. I've seen some of the top salespeople on the planet that you're talking making 100,000 plus per month in commissions that were 400 pounds. And I've seen the most fit people in the world that couldn't sell a shirt off their back to a homeless person for free. It really has nothing much to do. Now, being healthy is good for your health because you're around longer and you're happier. But when the prospect picks up the phone and says hello, or they get on Zoom with you, or you meet them at their office or in their home, and you don't know what to say and ask that causes them to let their guard down, if you don't know what to say and ask that builds an emotional gap from where they are compared to where they want to be, and they don't have urgency to change, that motivational stuff goes out the window really quickly, and it's going to wear off quickly, and you're going to want to get out of sales.
Have you seen, I guess, because you've been in multiple industries and been a top producer in sort of all of them, have you seen
possibly? Yeah, I don't know.
Possibly. Have you seen, is there like a prototype where you can tell someone comes in, they're kind of just selling off esprit de corps and enthusiasm and coming off a bit salesy? Like, well, I've seen there's usually a cap to that person. In terms of income potential when it comes to sales.
In the 4 industries I was in, 2 B2C, 2 B2B, I never saw somebody that just personality sold and they were excited that didn't make more than 15 grand a month at the most. And there might be a month they make 20 grand, but then the next month they make 11. And then the next month they make 13. It's kind of like they're all over the place because they're just,
well, I think if your mental state, I think if like your state, quote unquote, like I've worked with a lot of salespeople that like, oh, it's just out of flow or whatever. And I always say, like, listen, the fact that you think you have to be in flow to make a sale is the problem. The fact that you think you have to have the correct mindset to make a sale is the problem.
Yeah.
Like, that is the crutch that you're giving yourself, to where, like, your lack of skills and your lack of consistency to applying the process that you know is best, that is what's stopping you. So if you just follow your process and your outcome is not to, like, for me, the big changer for me that you told me was, like, the goal is not to make the sale, the goal is to follow the process. Because if you follow the process consistently enough, then you'll get the outcome regardless.
Yeah.
You know? And so people who rely on their headspace, mindset, flow state, whatever you want to call it, in order to make sales, you're always going to have areas where you're up and down mentally. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, up and down, up
Yeah.
and down. Yeah, I mean, it's so true because it's tactical skills. It's like, imagine yourself. The best analogy I can give everybody is like, if you're a neurosurgeon and you don't learn tactical skills on performing successful brain surgeries from people who've done successful brain surgeries, and you just, like, let's say you skip half your school and they're like, hey, we don't have enough neurosurgeons, so you just got to throw it in there and do your best. I mean, motivational training is not going to help you perform a great brain surgery, right? It has nothing to do with it. And selling is the same way. Now, you're going to have to go through motivational training if you trigger a lot of sales resistance, because you sound scripted, you sound salesy, you sound attached, you don't understand the right questions to ask, your tone is way off. Well, then you're going to really need to pump yourself up just to get through the day. But if you know exactly what to say and ask, you understand the right tone, you understand how to prevent most objections from happening. And if they do happen here and there, you know how to help them overcome the objections from what we train you. You don't have to get motivated, because if you do that and follow the process, you're going to get a certain result 9 out of 10 times, because the process works. You have tactical skills. When you have tactical skills, that in turn gives you motivation, because what you do works, right? It's like the neurosurgeon goes in there and performs the surgery, and the surgery is successful. That gives him or her more confidence on the next surgery, right? It's the same thing in sales. So when you have the best tactical skills, when you learn techniques that work with human behavior, you know how to open up your prospects. You don't really need to. I never read a motivational book until probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I was making, $250,000 a month in commissions as a salesperson working for a company. I didn't have any motivational stuff that I went through, because I knew that's not really going to help me. I knew the words that I used would help me. I knew the questions I used would help me. I knew learning advanced tonality would help me make sales. But like listening to somebody jump up and down and do push-ups and stuff, that's not going to help me make any sales. What does that have to do with the prospect on the other end of the phone? Zero.
Exactly. And like, if you come up against people who are just generally not really interested in that as well, different personality type, you come up against an atypical personality, like against me. If you're trying to sell me and that's kind of your style, it's just, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Like, straight up, I'm going to be like, no, this is not happening. But if you ask me questions, I'll answer them.
Yeah, sure, because you feel like there's a reason why they're asking you questions, and it's all how you ask it, right? It's using verbal cues to bridge into your next questions where it sounds natural, instead of just asking questions off a script where you sound like an FBI interrogator.
Yeah.
There's a major difference in that, for sure.
Yeah. What did you mean when you said that, using cues to bridge to the next question?
Yeah, verbal cues. So verbal cues is a good point here. Verbal cues are sounds out of your mouth. When you ask a question, the prospect starts answering it. I don't want to just set back. Most salespeople just set back and listen. And then at the end, they're like, okay, awesome. Yeah, that's so awesome. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious. Let me ask you. It sounds scripted, right? So while the prospect's talking, I'm leaning in. I'm like, oh, right. Okay, but walk me back. When you said, see that verbal cue, right, but walk me back. Verbal cue. Oh, but walk me back. See, that verbal cue bridges me into my next question where it sounds natural and conversational. So the prospect doesn't feel like you're interrogating them. And a lot of it is in your tone, right? Because there's certain questions in the process we talk about all this time where, we have the challenge next week. We talk about this all the time. There's certain questions you have to ask in more of a curious tone, right? Because your tone is how your prospects interprets why you're asking every question you ask. So everybody write that down. Your tone is how your prospect interprets why you're asking the question. So if I ask it in a curious tone, they feel like I'm genuinely curious. But if I don't ask it in a curious tone, like a monotone tone or an excited tone, sounds more salesy and scripted, right? There's other questions I have to ask more of a challenging or skeptical tone. What are the ramifications if you guys don't do anything about this, though? See, that's a skeptical or challenging tone. There's other questions where I have to ask in more of a concerned tone. What's really holding you back? See, that's a concerned tone. They're going to interpret.
And you can also play that off each other.
concerned
Like if you're in more of a B2B environment,
Yeah.
you might ask your consequence question in just a sort of in that sort of more challenging tone. What are the possible? But if you're in a B2C, you might ask it in a really in a really
more,
concerned
I
tone.
can slap them more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're very concerned about them. Well, what happens if you don't do anything? Really concerned, depending on where you're at. That's why I always say, like, NEPQ is a series of steps that you have to go through to make a sale.
Yeah.
Whether you do that in 1, 2, or 10 calls,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's just depending on the buyer cycle and what you sell and lead generation tactics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you just want to get that person to understand what they're here for, figure out what they're doing about what they're here for.
The real situation. Yeah.
The real situation. Then what are the problems associated with that they're seeing that they're not able to get to to where they want to go?
Yeah.
And what's the solution that they're looking for? And what is like a tangible and sort of
what's it going to feel like once the newfound problems are solved? Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, what are the consequences of not solving the problem and never getting to the solution?
Yeah.
And then committing to making the changes required and then going through a presentation.
Yeah.
You just have to do those steps.
Yeah. And it really depends on what you do. So, if you're selling B2C, business to consumer, it's a one-call close. Let's say if you sell insurance and it's a one-call close, you're selling mortgage protection, you're going to transition into your presentation and close. Let's say if you sold, I don't know, like cybersecurity to banks, it's not a one-call close, right? It might be you're meeting them 7 or 8 times before it closes. So you're asking commitment questions. We call those micro commitment questions that are just smaller commitments, like booking the next step demo or booking the next step meeting with the department head. That's a commitment to their smaller commitments that lead to the ultimate commitment to purchase.
Exactly. And if people want to find out more about where they can learn about these commitments, where should they go?
Boom shakalaka. Let's have them go to our free Facebook group. If anybody is watching or listening to our podcast, and you're not in our Facebook group, Sales Revolution, you're just losing sales you could be making. So, because on here, we don't do much. We just kind of banter and, just have some fun. So you go to salesrevolution.pro, salesrevolution.pro. We'll have a link on here. We go live in the group 3 or 4 times a week with different Q&As, different training. We give you little nibbles in there, little hors d'oeuvres, a little bit more tactical than on here. And then you want advanced training for your industry with what you sell, because I can pretty much assure you that we are training tons of people in your industry, if not thousands in your industry. And tons of them are making 20 grand a month, 30 grand a month, 40 grand a month in the industry you're listening to us right now. A lot of them make even more than that in the same industry you're in. So you want to acquire those type of skills that they've acquired now. You want to get into our virtual training programs for our clients and our group training. That's where you're going to really make a ton more money than you are now. So just first step is we'll give you some more hors d'oeuvres and some little stuff that's going to help you sell more. But you want to start making triple, quadruple what you're making. When you join the Facebook group, just message me or Matt, and we'll let you book with a team member to go through different training options for what you sell if you want to make 3, 4, 5 times more. So join the free Facebook group first, and then message us in there once you get in there and say hi to us. All right. We love you.
Awesome.
Matt, you enjoy yourself. I just saw Sammy and one of your kiddos. I saw Summer walk by.
Yeah.
Tell him we said hi over here from Arizona.
I will. Tell your 17 children I say hello as well.
17 children. I love that. I only got 5, man. I got the basketball.
Only 5.
Only 5. I'm old, man. I'm in my 40s.
I got 2, bro. I'm done.
You're done at 39, man. There you go. I love it.
Yeah. No
right,
more for me.
No more for he's done, man. These guys you gotta keep buying the Louis Vuitton. You can't keep having more kids.
I gotta pay for this house.
You got a $25 billion house over there in City.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, enjoy. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks, everybody.